Marxism is the political, economic, and social principles and policies advocated by Karl Marx, especially a theory and practice of socialism, see Socialism Sense 3, including the labor theory of value, which is dialectical materialism, the class struggle, and dictatorship of the proletariat until the establishment of a classless society happens. Um, this is not Christianity. Um, Marxism is the ideology of Karl Marx. Karl Marx was not a Christian. His worldview was an atheistic one. He said that he wanted to dethrone God and end capitalism. He hated the church. He hated Christianity, clearly by that statement. And he was pro-socialism, anti-capitalism, pro-communism. He literally said socialism is the intermediate state between capitalism and communism. The end goal of socialism is communism. He was a communist. He loved communism. Karl Marx saw everything in life and culture as class warfare. If you had money, you were the oppressor. If you didn't have money, you were the oppressed. That's the way he saw people. That's his worldview. Dialectical materialism and historic materialism is how Marxism views history, all as class warfare. And it's all materialistic. It's matter over mind. It's this material world, nothing supernatural, nothing spiritual, just matter and motion. The anthropology or view of the nature of man is seen this way, right? Just as class warfare. The anthropology of Marxism is just class warfare, oppressor, oppressed, social theory, things like that. Materialism, nothing spiritual. A biblical anthropology is totally rejected. It's an atheistic one where you really don't have any objective truth about anthropology anyway. And there's also all these economic theories of anti-capitalism, socialism, and obviously communism being the end goal. This is not Christian. This isn't Christian. Communism and socialism have killed over 100 million people in the last century. And communism and socialism have been primary fighters against Christianity and persecutors of Christians around the world. This is true for China. This is true for North Korea. Hitler was a socialist. The Nazi Party was the Nationalist Socialist Party. Stalin was a Marxist. Marxism, according to this definition, always brings in dictators, right? Fascism is very Marxist. And Venezuela right now being a socialist country, that's Marxism. So all those things are very significant. There's nothing Christian about Marxism at all. And now this is classical or economic Marxism, but you also have cultural Marxism, which seeks to do all of these same things, but not just with economics, but with everything about culture and about current issues like ethnicity, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, all those kinds of things. So, and that's where you get ideas like white privilege, ideas like intersectionality, right? Systemic racism in the police force, the BLM movement. All of these things are Marxism. You have economic Marxism, and you have cultural Marxism, and today they go hand in hand. You really can't separate the two, especially where we are now. It's not Christianity. The reason it's not Christianity is because it's a system of government worship, right? And it rejects the gospel as the solution to problems in our world, rejects Christ as king and Christ as savior, but the government is king, the government is savior in Marxism. And the solution is always end capitalism, bring in socialism, and then bring in communism. Socialism and capitalism and communism are all distinct ideas about economics. Socialism and communism really go together, and capitalism just kind of stands off on its own. Capitalism is the idea that the government shouldn't be involved in business, and that private citizens, a free people, should be able to start and own businesses and keep the money they earn, make all their business decisions, and employ whoever they want. And obviously, those who are employed have the freedom to accept or decline, and negotiations and all that kind of stuff. People are free in capitalism, right? Businesses, the means of production, are owned by private citizens. People are free to have businesses, and they get to keep the money that they earn. This is biblical. We see this in Jesus' parable of the talents and the vineyard workers. We see this in property rights, in God's law in the Old Testament. We see the rejection of taxing people unequally and the rejection of taxation by force because it's theft. In socialism, you have something very different. Socialism is the idea that the government should own the means of production or all businesses and redistribute wealth from the rich to the poor. So in socialism, the government owns the businesses. People don't get to own businesses anymore. And the money that you make gets taken and given to people who are poorer than you by force. So it's stealing, it's envious, it's covetous, and it eventually makes everybody poor. I mean, this is exactly what's going on in Venezuela. It's never worked in history. If you keep taking from rich people and giving it to poor people and keeping some of the taxes for yourself, then what ends up happening is all the people become poor, and the only people that are rich are the people in government. Now, communism. Communism is where the government owns everything. The government owns the businesses, the means of production. The government is in control of all the money, all of economics, all the houses, all your stuff, your whole life. Nothing you do happens without the government being involved. The government owns everything and gives you what you think you should have. If they don't think that you should have a 2-story house, you don't get one. If they think that you should have a 1-story house, then that's what you get. You don't own property. They own it. They have all the land. There's no such thing as private land in communism. And the only people that are rich, that own all the things, are the people in government. They eat well while the people starve. This is not Christian.